Welcome to another CMC podcast. And today we're continuing in our series where we're interviewing all of the Grimp North America 2022 teams. And today joining us, we have the Peak Rescue team. So, Micah, do you want to say hi to our listeners?
Hey, how's everybody going? Micah Rush here, Peak Rescue.
So, and Micah, do you want to introduce your team?
Yeah, so today I have Toph Steinhoff. I have Eric Christensen. Say hi, Eric.
Yeah.
Hello.
And I have Tye Herron.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Toph, do you want to just say hi so our listeners can hear your voice there?
Yeah, how's it going, everybody? I'm Toph.
Good. So excellent. So what got? Why don't you tell us a little bit about what is Peak Rescue? What brought you guys together as a team?
Peak Rescue is just a small training company, response team. We all work together on a fire department. We climb together. We do big responses together. So, just kind of we're a very small, tight-knit little group.
Oh, excellent. So what got you interested in participating in Grimp North America?
So this is Eric Christensen. This one's mine. I think one of the biggest ones is everybody likes to be comfortable. Everybody likes, no one really wants to be uncomfortable. Nobody likes to hang it out there. And I think you learn a lot when you're uncomfortable, perhaps when you're under stress, perhaps when things are not ideal, and a lot of the times when you don't have all the cards, when you don't know, very similar to like a real rescue. So I think, how do you emulate a real rescue? Like, how do we get to go play without it actually being real? And I think the competition does a pretty good job of setting that stage of where time is of the essence. We don't have the cards. A lot of times in all of our trainings, it's like, we've been to the place. I know we ask our clients, our students to do something, and I know it's possible because I either did it last week or I came up with the whole system in my head, so I know it can be done, and we have this idea of what we want to see done. And it's totally different when you are on the other side and you have no idea. You've never seen it. You have no idea what you're looking at. And so I think it's good to be uncomfortable. And I think that was one of our things, is to kind of go out there and maybe practice what we preach, maybe see, can we actually do what we're teaching? And in the end, it's all about having fun. Like, we went there knowing that we were going to learn. Like, you can't not learn there. And so I think that was super exciting. We were all looking for something, and then who doesn't want to go play on a ship? Like, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think one of the things with that too is all too often we sit behind a desk and make up all these scenarios, and it was a rare chance for us to get the opportunity to have a random scenario thrown at us that we just got to play, which is what we're all after anyway, right? Like, it's fun to teach and fun to come up with them, but this one in particular, we got to just go play. So
Excellent. So has your team participated in other competitions?
Yeah, so we've competed in other comps. We haven't done a ton. We competed in Namur Grimp Day. Was our first competition ever as a team over in Europe. And we had such a good experience there that basically we decided to do it because, Doug, we were like, we don't know where we're at in the world. Like, are we drinking our own bathwater? Are we, let's go see what the world has to offer. And we just wanted to maybe validate, and what these guys were talking about, just see the things that we teach and our principles sound. And this group is very open-minded, which is really cool that we're all able to hang it out there. And it is a big deal to kind of go show up and especially as a company, but as a person. I love the quote by, you're the ones in the arena spilling the blood are the ones that get to talk about it, right? Mm-hmm. You don't get to talk about it unless you're out there. And we went to Namur, and it was such a positive experience. We were like, I think there's a value in this from just a building standpoint as people. And so we started going on that. So the only other one that we did was we went to the Tower Rodeo in Arizona. Eric and I participated in that. It was specific for Tower, and we found value in that. And on that backside, for that, Eric and I, and we've been climbing for years, and we did climbing competitions for longer than I like to care to talk about. But we competed in that. We saw the value in that too, as far as if you're not failing, you're not moving forward, you're not progressing. And I think we carried that over into the rescue world, and I see a positive in that. And we also used to put on climbing events. I used to go over all over the country and put on these big climbing events, and you saw the people that showed up and just did it. I had mountain guides, full mountain guides, competing in bouldering competitions, and at the end they were like, yeah, we learned a ton. And we sort of carried that, I think, into the rescue world, and I feel that I think we all should do that. It's something I'm pretty psyched about, and I want to continue doing it.
Well, and just kind of watching from the outside too, because I try to follow a lot of these competitions. Being that we're doing one, and obviously Nemours kind of the home base for all these things, where it's really where it got going. And I was really impressed. I looked your guys' first competition, in any of the Grimps, and let alone going to Nemours, where there's a lot of teams, and you guys placed third your first time in. That's That's impressive.
We were
as surprised as everybody else.
Yeah, we were humbled, and it was such a fun event, and everybody was just like your guys. It was super nice, and we'd come off, and I should mention we did do rope trip also. We've competed in a rope access competition. 3 of us have it, and again, we saw the value right away on getting your butt kicked, and then learning.
Which we did. We got our butts kicked.
Yes,
in that one.
Yeah. Sometimes the best lessons, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
It almost sparked the fire, you know what I mean? To continue these competitions, to learn and to grow. And yeah, it was a good experience. Just all of them have been.
So excellent. So, so kind of speaking of that, so what did you guys do to prepare, for the competition?
This was kind of one of those ones that we as a team, we had one guy that was from Salt Lake, one guy that was from Cheyenne and Casper. So we were a little spread out. In terms of locations, and so it wasn't easy for us to get together. We had the luxury of going to Nemours together, but we had some team changes for North America, and so it was a little tough for us to make a pre-competition training happen. And so basically once we got to LA, we were able to kind of get together and run through some things. But I think overall we as a company, we practice what we preach. And so we've been training the entire time we've been instructing up until this point. We don't just put stuff out there and then go out and compete and do something totally different. We basically do the exact same skills that we teach, and maybe we tried a few more high-end things than what we would normally offer. But at the end of the day, it was the basics and just working as a team and communicating. And so I guess ultimately our preparation came from just the years of instruction that we've been giving. So,
well, and I would definitely say that your idea of basically keep it straightforward, keep it simple worked. You guys came in and you were the first place team at Grimp North America. So again, another impressive thing. So you came third in Nemours and then first year. So.
And we were super humbled by that. There was a lot of great teams there, and we learned a lot from other people, and we were just happy to be part of the experience.
So yeah, let's kind of talk about some of the different scenarios here, and kind of get your guys' take on it. So the starting out, we did. Let's start at the top of the ship here, room with a view. So up on the fly bridge.
Room with a view. That was our first one, and actually one of our guys flew in late the night before, and so we didn't get to practice with our whole team. And that was definitely our worst one for our side of it, and I'll own that. As a leader, I was trying to micromanage and too much feedback and trying to control things and didn't give a clear plan. And it's so emblazoned when we, it's the same thing when we teach. It's like that leader can kind of break down the whole thing. And I really saw that, and I got some great feedback from the guys on that first one throughout the whole thing. And I think that whole thing with listen to the guys on the ground. And it was a great event. We for us, it felt it was I think I overthought it, and we had to climb up through a knot and package a patient and get them off in a safe manner. And I just think in the end that was our rusty one. We still felt good on it, but it was one of those as a team. After doing it, I was like, okay, I'll kind of own that, because the guys were performing as they should have. it was the leadership style. Is for me, like, coming into these things, it's always, everybody's really nervous, and I think your first one's always the one where you don't know how you're going to hold up, and am I doing it right, and you're learning how to play the game right, where we come in with this preconceived notion. And for me it was, slow down, listen to the guys on the ground, get some input back, and try not to micromanage so much.
Well, and I would imagine a station like that too has got to be good for you guys, because it was kind of a crossbreed between rope access with the ascent up, pass and knot, and then more of a traditional rescue once you got up there doing a vertical stoke. So do you think your backgrounds helped you?
Yeah, definitely. I think the rope access definitely helped us ripping up there, and we almost overthought it. And I think that's a big thing in these competitions. You guys do a great job with putting these on. And it's like, here's what it is. Just do it. You're not hiding anything. You're not doing anything different. It's us who kind of do that in our own minds of, there must be this, or they're going to do this to us. And I think, to me, it's the rope access really shined in that one, I think. That's something we tell people in our classes. If they say, what's the next level? We'll go take your rope access level 1, access level 1. That's going to help your personal skills quite a bit. And that one definitely showed.
I think too, a little add on that. I think, like Micah said, the first one's always the hardest, because you kind of have the butterflies. We're a little bit nervous, I think for me too, the biggest thing was I didn't quite understand the rules yet. I didn't quite understand the game. I didn't quite, we were a bit hesitant, can we touch this? Are we allowed to touch that? Can the ropes touch this? There was a couple things that we, instead of doing I hate to say what we wanted to do, or just doing what we always do, we were like Micah said, we were totally overthinking it. I probably can't touch that. They'll probably get a point off or something. And we just made it more complicated in our head than it needed to be. And in the end, I said, I think we just got a little bit gamed in our head. And I think it was a good one to get gamed in our head, because we all had a great debrief at the end, like Micah said. And it was like, okay, we got that one out of the way. Now let's game on. Now we know what to do.
Excellent.
And I think one of those things, just in addition to that, was we're the type of team that just enjoys having fun. And it seemed like on that one, we weren't ourselves. We weren't, we were really rigid, like he said, with the rust. You know what I mean? It didn't seem like we were operating efficiently and smooth like we usually would. And so after we had that one, we just kind of shook it off and said, let's just go have some fun and enjoy ourselves like we always do. And it totally changed the dynamic for us moving forward. So,
Oh, that's good then. So yeah, we'll kind of move, kind of head towards the back of the ship, but still up above here. The stacks.
Yeah, the stacks for us was kind of the opposite of the room with the view, because it wasn't the first one; it was the last one. And by then we had loosened up a lot, and we were having a lot of fun, and I think it went pretty well. It was a tough scenario. It was very sequential, and Micah's leadership, I think, really shined. We all had a part to play, and we understood our roles pretty well. It was really, really tight up there. For a guy like me, there was one point where I honestly thought I might be stuck for a second, but I managed to squeeze my belly through there, and
you almost broke the ship, honestly.
Yeah, I thought I might have to.
You started hulking out on the.
No, it was super fun. It was challenging. We tried to outsmart the lack of space there with our haul field a little bit, and I'm not sure that we would do that again that same way, but it ended up working out, and yeah, it was a fun scenario.
So Doug, we had this. So you guys have all heard this, but it was the sort of the highline scenario, and the problem was you had a patient down that was maybe 50 feet down, and you only had to bring him up 20 feet. So the traditional Norwegian, there was no lockout, so we kind of threw an audible in there and put a pro track at the bottom so we could lock it out. And the other thing Tye's talking about, we tried to do a counterbalance where Tye would repel and it would pull the load up at the same time. And, fireworks were going to go off and people were going to be cheering and screaming and throwing, flowers
Articles
at
of
us.
clothing,
yeah,
things
and
like that.
clothing, and it was going to be the most amazing thing ever. We didn't see that, but man, it was a fun try, and that's what we come to competitions for. It was like, let's try something that we haven't tried before, and let's see if it works. So I had a ball, and Tye went up shining on that one as far as, we didn't get him all the way up with it, and he set up a system super fast on the ground and hauled Eric and the patient as much as he could the rest of the way. So and really thought out, was like funny because we tried something new, and we'll see. We didn't get the flowers or the clothing, but it worked out.
Well,
the problem is that was our...
shows hard work will usually prevail over good ideas. But
I think that one was unique too, in that, like, for most of the scenarios, I was like the rescuer, and even on that one as a rescuer, that was like the one scenario the rescuer just like sat there, and I was like, so what am I supposed to do now? Like, can I do something different? And it was really like, oh, I just kind of hang out now, I guess. This is it. You guys raise me and lower me. Like, it was like the opposite, I'm sure, like some of you guys felt on some of the other scenarios. Like, this is it. This is what I do.
He's the front man, so that's the diva that you get out of him every time.
Right.
Like, oh, just raise me up. You saw him; he just would do this.
Right,
He
just
wanted
like this.
up.
Raise me, lower
Bring me
me.
down. Yeah.
So just so kind of our listeners kind of get the picture. So you were doing the Reeving highline, and so you had both Eric and your patient on, and then
Yes.
Tye was the counterbalance. And
Yeah, so we had it running from up top. We repositioned the system coming through our progress capture, and then we actually hooked it on the track line. And so when Tye clipped that into him, so when he was rappelling, we were going to counterbalance on the 2-to-1. And so as he rappelled down, you'd lift the system at the same time. Because part of the scenario, if the listeners don't know, is you had to get everybody to a certain point below us also. At the end of the scenario, everybody had to be down there, ropes cleaned, all the system. We had to do pull-through anchors, the whole deal. And so our thought was, well, we'll just send Tye, and he'll just counterbalance and then, like we said, the alarms are going to go off, and people are just going to think that's the smoothest thing ever. It was good on paper. But this is the best thing about it. You're just kind of doing it on the fly, and I think that's a cool thing.
really, I think they just wanted me out of the way because it was such a small space there. And so they just came up with this idea to get me out of the way really quick.
For our listeners too, Tye's a really big deal. How tall are you, Tye?
6'5".
Yeah, so you're a good sized guy. So when I heard the counterbalance thing, I was really hoping it was both a victim and a tender, because your victim was on the smaller side. So that would have been, especially with a 2-to-1 on a Reeve, that would have been like the most overkill possible to send Tye as a counterbalance. Yeah,
It was barely legal, we'll say.
Yeah.
But again, a great problem, because for listeners who don't know, on our Reeve systems, we always go back up to the track lines. And I thought this one was really thought out, that you had to take them from whatever the 50 feet or 60 feet mark, and you only had to bring them up 15 feet and then move them horizontally to get to the next deck. And a lot of us don't think about how do we lock those systems out, and if we're not fighting a Norwegian the whole way, or putting a clutch or a maestro in our progress capture. And that was something that I thought was really cool, that threw a little spin in that. It was great. Yeah.
I think just one of those things that initially as we were getting the information, it seemed like an obvious arbor reeve situation, and I think it's one of those things that not every reeve works in the same situations, and you need to be adaptable and still remember things from the past. And it was one of those ones where I wanted to fight to do the arbor reeve, and at the end of the day, that was not the right choice. What we did was the perfect choice. So
I think it was cool too. That's one of the scenarios that you could see almost everybody work. So like, even as a team member, I actually got to see everybody else doing something. So I would say that's one of the hard things with all the scenarios, is not only did we not get to watch other teams do anything, but like I never even saw what my other teammates were doing. So it's kind of hard to you're kind of in your own little bubble, but that one, like watching one of our members, Keith, he was on like the dead end side. He had the track lines twisted, and watching his technique to untwist while the anchor was built, while not losing everything, well, I was like blown away. I was like, I never would have thought that. He literally loosened one track line and then twisted the anchor, or I say untwisted, while twisting the other rope, tensioned it and then untwisted the rope. So all I had to do was take a carabiner off and then clip it right back into the anchor, like the anchor plate. It was I know I would have dropped something. I know I would have had a giant rat's nest. And just to watch him work through that, although it seemed really simple, I was like, oh, that was really cool. I just learned something. I'll do that.
Wow. Oh, very neat. So let's head from the top, the really nice, high profile, really cool view, head down to the bottom of the ship, down to the catacombs.
Oh, the catacombs. This one, I think, was the overthinker. We went in, we cleared the space. It was a confined space. And these were basically after all said and done, it was just, they just got smaller, and smaller, and you had to package a victim. And this was something I learned a lot about is I sent in Eric and Keith ahead. And Keith at one point said, I think we should just take off all of our stuff. And I was like, no, keep going. Something's going to happen. And when they got to the patient, Eric, radioed back and he said, hey, we're throwing our harnesses out. Take off your harness and come in here and just help us move. And I remember thinking, really? And so we stripped all of our gear down, literally went to nothing on, just our helmets, and ran through these spaces. And I thought this was a really interesting because it made you overthink it. And in all said and done, if I would have been I was in charge, but listening to my guys say, you're going to strip down and you're going to come in here. And then we just saw gear and harnesses being thrown at us, and we threw them out. And Tye was, putting all that stuff in the box already. And we literally ran in, packaged the patient in a sked, and it was work. 4 of us just moved him through these really, really, and I can't stress it. Terry, our patient, is a really small guy, and squeezing him through the spaces was quite hard. And we just moved him all the way out. And it was interesting. I don't remember if the time was 12 minutes or whatever it was, but I remember thinking that's it. And I thought that was really good because it was pretty straightforward. But I think if you didn't listen to your people up front, I wanted to fight those guys, and I wanted to tell them no, we're going to need ropes and our harnesses. And for them to tell me just to dump them, I thought was pretty cool. And to listen to them, I thought that one was awesome, actually. I really overthought that. And again, listening to the guys on the ground, that's key.
Yeah, it was definitely a teamwork-based station.
Oh, definitely.
That was the one that the Cobra buckle got me, right?
Cobra buckle.
The Cobra buckle on the sked. I think that's where I undid in a frantic to loosen the Cobra buckle on the sked. I ended up pulling it, and it came unthreaded.
Oh,
and you would have thought I was trying to diagnose a NASA part. It was the most, there's one moving part, and I sat there and really struggled. Does it go this way? Does it go in this one? And it was mind blowing how challenging just the Cobra buckle turned out to be.
So that one, like I said, very straightforward. So then we had the next one here we'll talk about, a little more complicated, Broadway.
Yeah, Broadway got a little more interesting for sure, and quite a bit more fun, in fact. And I think this is where we had a little bit of a game plan going into some of these, just in terms of a progression of people entering spaces. And I think this is where we really started to see that shine. We've all had significant opportunity to utilize the vortex, and so it was a relatively simple setup. There wasn't anything that caught us off guard. And then entering the space, I think Micah had a great plan. Keith and Eric went in first, and the second they got down in the space and figured out that there was a search and we needed to hunt for the victim, he put me in as well and came down, and then he started prepping himself. Him and Tye got everything ready up top, and then he came down to join us. And it was one of those, they had multiple platforms, so you came down to a bottom platform, and then you'd have a series of semi-vertical ladders that you had to ascend up to search and find the victim. And then there were some areas where there was fall potential, so they wanted to see you put on some sort of fall restraint. And so through this whole process, everyone's thinking for themselves and individually. And I think that showed the importance of having individuals who are competent, and highly skilled and can think for themselves, and a leader that trusts those skills and those thought processes. Because ultimately, most of the decisions that were made, he was relying on the input that came from all of us. And so it was a really fun one. We had a great time. There was like Eric and Keith made quick patient access. We set up some systems interior. We were able to do some deviations that made the transitions from the deck that he was on to the deck down to, I guess, the lowest level fairly simple. We had some shining moments. Micah threw a carabiner on the lines and just stood up and was a human high directional for a minute to get the lines off the stairs, and then Keith, to make sure that nothing would touch, slipped his foot and just deviated the rope enough that there would be no contact. So just everybody was thinking at a very high level through all of that. And then we got him down to the bottom and raised him quickly up and out with a ProTrack Reeve, which was something we, again, never really tried too much of before, but you put a ProTrack on either side, and basically people on either end of that pulling at the same time create the pressure you need on the vortex to keep the resultants within the footprint. So it was one of those, just we were kind of trying new things and had a good time with it. And almost that ProTrack Reeve almost went too fast. They realized really quickly that they had to actually slow themselves down a little bit because they were just ripping Terry up and out of that hole. And so it was a really fun one. I thought we did well, and it was one that we all got to get involved with and have fun. So.
Well, and that escape shuttle that you were bringing them up through, that's pretty tight, and then plus the ladder in there.
That's about as tight as it gets.
And
that couldn't have been more than 18 inches or so. Yeah.
We had a rule, Doug, that when they told us a ladder wasn't used, we just turn our backs to it, so we didn't even touch it.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Because if I know me, I'm like, oh, there's a ladder there. I'll just put my foot on it. So, yeah.
Also tempting, right?
Yeah, very tempting.
So... And then, so kind of basically, if you follow the hall, Broadway too, for our listeners, it's like the main hallway that goes front to back, below deck in the ship, and it literally is like a main street. And then, so all the way at the end of Broadway is Shaft Alley.
I know you mentioned it and you talked to us like I actually knew where I was on the ship. I never knew ever where I was on the ship. Like we had I can't remember our guide's name. Was it Jim?
Jim, yeah.
A big shout out to those guys. Like it was just super nice for them, like helping us out. It was just fun to hang out. Jim would always throw a little nugget, like a little history, a little like this piece does this or this was here. So it was, while we were competing, we were also kind of getting this really cool tour. So it was, I was really appreciated all those guys. I thought that was really fun. This one was also interesting because you never know what you're going to get into. It looks like just a descent down the hole, maybe 40 feet, maybe through a couple layers or platforms or levels. I can't remember. And, there's going to be something different at the bottom. But this was the one I remember the first opening was fairly big. And then the next two openings, like my gear loops got caught. Like I never felt, I'm not a very big guy, but like a carabiner was like too much to get in the hole. You know what I mean? Like it was the one scenario, like having everything on you was kind of a little bit of a pain just to fit in. But if I remember, we descended down and then we were on this platform, did a little bit of search, me and Keith, if I remember right. And then you got to the end of this like kind of a catwalk and you had to go into this other little room. And then there was ascent lines. If I remember right, we could only use them for ascent and descent, and that was it. And so, I ascend up first, and then lo and behold, there was our victim. And I think kind of the key things on that one were we didn't need everybody there. Like, hopefully, and I say maybe hopefully luckily, I brought enough stuff with me to just build a quick lowering system to patient package. I believe that was with the Dragon lift on that one. Mm-hmm. And then load him into our own system, which was really key. We brought ropes. We called them access ropes. We brought little chunks of 100-foot ropes, which turned out to just be like money. I mean, that was like one of the key pieces of gear. And we set our system, and then Keith just was on descent on the main lines that we were able to use, and then he just kind of like just vectored him, just hanging out there on descent. So he was able to manage a couple edges, and then Toph and Micah were already down, coming up with the game plan to like horizontal and then the raise. I think this one, just like the catacombs, I think there were many things happening at the same time. Like people were already planning the extrication, planning the horizontal, planning the vertical, while the patient was still even being packaged. So it seemed somewhat fluid. By the time, the patient was down, they were already ready to do the horizontal. By the time they got to the raise, it was already ready. I'm going to say Micah was already up. Like, by the time I broke down my entire system and got back down to ascend up, like, it was already my turn. Like, it was a fun one. It was a good. I think I remember getting stuck on like all the bolts, like out of each flange. I had these bolts. I just remember getting stuck on everything. But again, it was a really good one.
That was a hard one for me. I was down waiting to receive. So Eric and Keith had ascended up after we descended, and I was just sitting down there waiting. And it seems like it's taken forever. It was probably only 5 minutes or 10 minutes, But I sat there just waiting, and thinking to myself, like, there should be something else I can do. And I think that's one of the hardest things for us as rescuers. Is a lot of times we all want to be in the action. We all want to be part of it, and it's really hard to manage yourself and have the discipline to sit there and just wait, and wait for your turn to be part of the action. So,
yeah, that definitely it sounds like you guys really had some good, eloquent solutions to the problems there. So,
yeah, one of them actually I thought was pretty cool was, so Micah had ascended up to one floor below. So this was as you ascend or you descend down initially, there's 3 floors, and so he sent Eric to the bottom, Keith to the middle, me to the second, I guess, from the top, and we all searched those floors, and eventually, Eric had found where he needed to be or whatever. But I believe Micah was actually not even on the top floor when they started hauling. So on the one side of our reeve, Tye was hauling up, and on the other side, Micah was a floor below, and he just tossed him the other end of the line, you know what I mean, and started hauling up. And so it was seamless, you know what I mean? It was like we'd done it 1,000 times, when in reality that never happened before, So it was cool to just watch poetry in motion. So
yeah, something, Doug, we found in that is the Pro Track Reeve, we're calling it, the 2 Pro Tracks on either side. We can haul from multiple floors, and it speeds up. And I was on the bottom floor, which was really cool to see that we had just tried it in the Broadway, and we were like, I think this is going to work here. And that's something about the competition. We learned as we went in the competition in our own systems, which was awesome. So, yeah. And it progressed into, which I thought was the harder one, which is aptly named You're Not Going to Like This.
Yeah, very much so, right? I think, there were several names that came up, and that was the winner, and very appropriate, yeah. So for our listeners, that's the wing void. So it's in between the inner and outer hull of the ship. So what do you guys think of that one?
I think this was probably maybe all of our favorites. It was actually a true confined space. It felt like the responses we go on and the stuff that we've done, it felt dirty, small, and really hard. And I think all of us really liked this one. And I think everybody shined on this one, getting in and clearing the space and knowing your OSHA rules and your, getting in and kind of doing that. I thought this was a great problem to have. And honestly, I've been on responses, and I thought this one mimicked it really well as far as the problems we've had and, lessons we've learned from those. So listeners don't know, it was a true confined space that we had to clear as a permitted, and clear it and then get into it, clear the permitted and make it non-permitted, reclassify it, get inside the space. And then it was really, really tight spaces for 3 little chambers. And then we dropped, I don't remember the distance, maybe 50 feet, and then a deviation to another 50 or 60 feet. And then you're at the bottom of these, it sounds like maybe, Doug, it was fuel tanks.
Yeah, it could either be seawater or fuel, depending upon what was going on there. Yeah, and it
Depends if there's a
definitely had
hole.
some of both. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a torpedo hole in the side of the ship, that type of thing.
And this is the one you were at, Doug, which I thought was cool. That was a dark, dirty little hole that you set in for multiple days. I commend you, but it was we thought it was really good, and our tactics on that were to send guys down and sort of stage them, and we set up a haul field right above us, which was really mechanically advantaged, as you know, and then hauled them up and then kind of moving them out, which we thought was really cool.
Well, and I got to tell our listeners too, it literally one of the few times throughout all the competition in both 2019 and this year, because I was in the same spot at both competitions, and I actually had to ask Micah when I saw the haul system they had set up, because it was just a rope coming out of the hatch, going through a clutch and then coming down. And I saw him hauling with his chest ascender, basically just doing squats. So I'm looking at that. It's like, so I had to stop and ask you. I says, is this a drop loop? Is the other end of the rope attached, on an anchor at the platform below? Or are you hauling up? And you just kind of gave me this real matter of fact, like, no, it's just a 1-to-1.
Yeah. So yeah, that was interesting. Yeah, we find efficiency sometimes in the simplest forms. As rescuers, we always go to these complex, crazy systems, and we're like, we can do this. And it's one of those, how many deviations you have, how clean is your system that you're pulling through. And that one felt good. So I just, put into my curl, like you were saying, my chest ascender, and I just did squats and hauled them up, and they just yelled at me on the radio, faster or slower. So it was
more often than not, it was slower. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, definitely the fastest haul I've ever seen out of this space. 'Cause I've seen teams do it literally now. I can honestly say a 1-to-1, 2-to-1, 3-to-1, 4-to-1, 5-to-1, and 9-to-1 being used to haul out of that space. So,
yeah. No, that was great. I love that one, Doug. That was a really good one. That felt like a real world problem that we would show up to, which I thought was great.
I thought it was interesting too, because it was actually a true confined space. The only reason it was mitigated was because of the ventilation measures that you guys had taken, right? Like there was active fans blowing in there, and that was part of it, right? Like this was a truly dangerous space. And I remember at one point being down, halfway down in one of the holes and hearing the fan stop, and just thinking to myself, oh no, you know what I mean? Like that was a red flag. And I think everybody at that, like in unison, yelled, the fans are off. You know what I mean? It was very rapid, and very quickly somebody found the problem and replugged back in. I don't know if that was you guys or if that was part of the scenario, or if we tripped something, but in any case, it was one of those, it's one of those things to think about when you have a space that you're mitigating, and then you get into it and something changes, say something, and everybody said something, that's for sure. So
yeah, very quickly you guys caught that. Yeah, that wasn't a purposeful. At a specific point in the scenario, we'd shut down one of the, because there was 2 fans in series. We shut down the one fan, and some of it was interesting to see how the different teams reacted. Some of the teams were almost for a second like almost a sigh of relief, like, oh, we can actually hear and talk. And the team, you can tell the teams that have worked in confined spaces are like, oh man, the fan stopped. We got to take care of it, right? So yeah, that was good. So and I got to say, you guys had, out of all the teams in my flight, you guys had the best time on that scenario, and you guys, it was really impressive to watch how you guys worked as a team. Very clear, concise, but minimal communication. I mean, you can tell you guys have worked together on a lot of jobs, on a lot of over the years, because it was almost like everyone knew what each other was thinking. So everything was very clean, very smooth, and very fast.
Yeah, like I said, that felt real.
Yeah,
it was fun.
Cool. So why do you guys think? So why do you think that some of the scenarios were challenging for some teams and just real straightforward or real easy for others?
I think it's your background. I'll let the other guys talk, but I think we all come into this with preconceived notions, and I think we all have what we think it should happen, and sometimes we overthink it, and sometimes we underthink it. And it's also, you kind of get in a bubble in your world. Everybody agrees with himself. We all think that we're the best. And turns out you always agreeing with yourself doesn't always work out in the real world. But I think that's why. Maybe Tye, what do you think?
Yeah, I just think, everybody brings a set of skills, and, for them to come together under good leadership and it makes it makes those diverse problems. You each get to shine at what you're good at, and I think there's a lot of people from different backgrounds and different locations, and even just where you're from can make you specialize, and everybody has a niche or whatever. But it was cool to be challenged by all those different scenarios, and see how other people with their diverse set of skills handled them too.
I think too it was cool to see some individuals who weren't, say, this was a relatively confined space heavy. Thank you, Micah. He's a timekeeper. Relatively confined space heavy, and so to see some individuals who maybe weren't necessarily confined space gurus to watch and see what they did, because they brought some different ideas that maybe can change the industry, you know what I mean? And maybe we have some takeaways because they have a different outlook, because they're not looking at it from the traditional confined space perspective. So
yeah, I think, yeah. And like I said, you guys come in really with a very wide range of backgrounds too, with rope access, rope rescue, and mountaineering, and confined space. So it definitely appeared that all of those played very well together for you. So what was your best takeaway from the event?
For our own team, it showed, like Micah mentioned, about our first event and how we were able to tweak some things. And in the end, I think it really showed, like Micah as team lead, like the rest of the scenarios were, when he got his debriefing, like his debriefing to us as a team were like in a conversation. Like they were calm, slow. Like it was one of those, he took time, wasn't frantic, gave clear instructions, like painted a really good picture, and then gave out really good assignments. Does everybody understand? And then it was go. It was one of those, it really, for me, the biggest takeaway was like, we talk about it. We talk about how important that is, but yet we fell victim first scenario to like, we got to go quick. Like it was neat once we recognized it, how it set the pace and the tone for every scenario. Like it just made me feel comfortable. You weren't even walking into a competition. You're like, oh, we're just, all right, I understand what we're doing. It's very clear. It wasn't frantic. I mean, that was, for me personally, as a member of a team, that was one of the biggest takeaways.
Interesting. Anyone else?
I think it was a really good overall learning experience. I think that there's so many different ways to skin a cat, and I think one of the benefits of these competitions is you get to see those other things. All too often, as Mike has said, we drink our own bathwater, and we only see what we teach and what we want to do and what we think is best, and ultimately that's not always the case. I think for a lot of situations, in this specific competition, individual skill set shined, right? Like everybody, you couldn't have a weak link on your team, because if you did, then that showed pretty evidently. And so this was one of those ones where I think that, just the learning experience that from seeing each team interact and seeing what they were capable of doing with what different equipment and what different skills was really impressive and really eye-opening.
So kind of along the same lines here. So did you learn anything at the event that you're going to actually be able to, kind of use on the job?
Oh, I think we always learn at these events. I took away skills and also just sort of mental, how I'll present myself and things we do. I think the big one I took away from this is as a team, you have to be cohesive and you have to listen to your guys. You can't have one guy that you can't say, Micah was on the team and that's why you did well. You can't have Eric was on the team. It's everybody on the team had a part to play and everybody did amazing at their part. Tye and Toph in the rigging and moving around when I asked them to, Eric and Keith up front. It's all about your team, and I learned that really fast. You have to be a team, and when you see somebody, and we hear this all the time, and it's cliche, but you have to have a strong team, and everybody on this team was willing to give to each other and also take, and it was I thought there was a really good balance there of cohesiveness. If I asked them to do something, they'd give me input, digest it, and most of the time they had better ideas than I did, or sometimes it was like, let's move. And I think that's key is the team aspect of this is amazing. I think I learned a lot.
Oh, very good. And that sounds like a good lesson that our listeners you can apply to a lot of different fields, right? Not only the fire service, but on rescues and everything. The importance of the components of trusting your team, like you were just talking about. Mm-hmm. Very good. So, would you recommend participating in either Grimp North America or an event like that to other teams?
Absolutely. Yeah. Kind of to tie 6 and 7 together, I think one of the things that you take away from something like this is confidence. I think that it helps reaffirm some of the things you do, and it helps you identify, and maybe validate your skill sets, and ultimately, first or last, you showed up and you competed. And I think that's a huge part of it. I think putting it out there, and not just for your company, but for yourself as an individual, or for your fire department, or whoever it is. I think that it's a hugely beneficial deal. And I mean, there's so much to learn from it, right? We not only learned from everybody else, but we learned about who we are as a team and our capabilities, and moving forward, it gave us a ton of confidence. And I would encourage not just Grimp Day, but any other competition that any team could get into. I think there's nothing but good things that can come from that. Anybody
would say they don't want to compete because they either they don't want to be embarrassed, they don't want to fail, they don't want to lose. And you've talked to everybody. I'm sure you can. No one failed at this. No one lost. Like, it's incredible. You know what I mean? Like, you cannot do anything but walk away better from this. And so I think if anybody is, I hate to use the word scared or hesitant, again, or half embarrassed, like, dude, it's a small community, and everybody there is really there to want you to succeed, help you succeed. Like, it was a very positive. And I said, even during the just hang out time, like, everyone is positive. I said, you can't lose to come to this at all. There's that element of competition that, I don't think any of us are going to say we're not there to, with some small fiber of our being wanting to win, the type of thing. But, you could see they had us all kind of in this little courtyard piled up, in our individual little areas. And it wasn't this little hush, everyone whispering to themselves, what are we going to do next type of thing. It was camaraderie, and everyone, just talking amongst each other and having fun, and a lot of good laughs and a lot of good sharing. And it was a good experience, top to bottom. So
cool. Anyone else? So how about anything else any of you would like to comment on? So, Mike, I want to start with you.
Yeah, Doug, first, I'd just like to thank you guys for putting it on. We've done these, and I know you probably get this a lot, but I don't think people understand how much goes into these competitions. And us on the competitor side, we had a ball. And so I know on your side of it was probably stressful and late nights. And I know that Wayne and the crew, you guys put a ton into these, and I truly appreciate it, because from us, we get to show up and just have fun. And I can't thank you guys enough. I know that you guys, it showed that you put a ton into it, and we really appreciate that, because we came away with just like all smiles. We got to see all of our friends in the community. All the companies get together. There's this barrier broke down in it. I can't stress it enough that when you're sitting across from somebody, it's pretty easy to just, cheers them with a beer or whatever, and, squash everything and have just a good time. And it was great to see, also just having a great time in the competition with you guys. So I appreciate everything you guys did is all I want to leave with.
And like you said, Wayne and Leroy and Vicky and several other people in the office, they're the ones that did the lion's share of the lifting. Most of us that came in as evaluators, we got to, come in, help position some gear and then be evaluators. But those other ones, they really put a lot of hours in for months and months and months. So they really deserve the credit.
No, I'll echo all the thanks again. I really appreciate it. Everybody, even from the volunteers, like, it's incredible how many people had a hand in it. So above all, I want to say thanks. I want to say thanks to Peak. too. Like Micah creating this family, this place it really is a place where we are comfortable. We can learn, we can fail. Like it's a positive place. It is just a great, great place. And I think what's also neat is that as trainers and educators, we want, like, are we doing a good job teaching? Do we have something to offer? And I think everybody wants validation, and that's not what this is about. But what sits well, I think, with us is that we did what we teach. It's not like we teach one skill and then in a competition we just totally do something different. You know what I mean? It's literally we did the same things that we taught yesterday and that we'll teach tomorrow. And so I think that's just a good feeling. It's just neat to see that it's working. And no, I want to say thanks to Peak and everybody. So
I think again, I'll echo everybody. Thank you to CMC. Thank you to the museum volunteers. Thank you to, there was a day in the very beginning, right, where we do all our equipment type checks and go make sure that we understand all of the gear that you guys are going to use in the competition and stuff like that. And I think everyone's searching for a competitive edge, and there was some, I think, stress associated with things like that. And so you guys being flexible and understanding, and the expectation you guys set was awesome. The venue was great. The food and everything was awesome. And it was just a grade A experience that from top to bottom. And we're really thankful and blessed to have been a part of it. So thank you guys.
You bet. Thank you.
Yeah, you guys have pretty much summed it up. It was a great time. I'm really lucky that I got to be a part of it, and especially I got to share it with my good friends and teammates, and meet so many other great people out there too. I really enjoyed the venue. I thought it just was a cool place to be, and to have our guides with us telling us stuff about the ship, and and the scenarios were very realistic. We spend a lot of time trying to come up with cool stuff for people we're teaching to do, and so I learned a lot there, some stuff that I'll probably put in my classes, and I just really appreciate everything. It was a good time. Thank you.
Well, excellent. We really appreciated all of you guys competing, and we as evaluators got to learn too. And I think, Mike, you said it very well, and I'd like to kind of echo that. As an evaluator, sitting back watching 6 different teams literally take and solve that problem 6 different ways, it was able to learn something from each and every one of the teams. There were good takeaways, and sometimes the best takeaway is, wouldn't do it that way, right? But even the teams that maybe had some difficulty in the way they solved the problem still had other great takeaways to learn from. So that was good. And then also you had mentioned all the work that went into it. And we definitely got a kind of a shout out to all the other people that helped outside of CMC too. With the guys from Elevated Safety were there, Ronan, a couple of guys from LA County Fire that came down and helped us out. And then and also Vertical Integrity at the last minute jump. We needed one. He had signed up to be a volunteer. Shaggy came in and he helped us out there because we weren't sure if we were going to lose an evaluator or not. So Shaggy jumped in as a backup evaluator. So it did an awesome job. And so yeah, it really took a lot of people, and we should appreciate all the help from those people too. So. But it was truly wonderful. It was truly fun to watch you guys, work as a team and see how you did it. Like I said, I only got to see the one station, but I was very, very impressed with your team and how well you you solved the problem and how quickly you solved the problem. So that was really cool.
Well, thanks for everything, Doug. And one more shout out we'd like to give is definitely to the LA Fire Department. They were amazing to us and letting us use their tower, supporting us. They came and watched the event. I cannot say we work with fire departments all over the US just like you. In the warmth we felt, those guys were amazing. The chief coming out and meeting us to letting us have their training facility for the day before. We want to thank those guys, and again, thank you.
Yeah, the hospitality was second to none. So.
Oh, that's excellent. Yeah. So that's great. So thanks for joining us, and I want to thank our listeners for tuning in and listening, and would like you to stay tuned for another CMC podcast.